now is Congressman Glenn Ivey of Maryland. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You are a former federal prosecutor yourself, and one of the things that we have heard and have talked about this morning already is the fact that DHS is going to says that they're going to do their own investigation instead of the FBI, which is what is usually will happen. How do you anticipate the level of trust we can put into that investigation when we've already seen the secretary of that organization lie and say that Freddie was walking up to them with a gun in his hands?
Yeah, this continues the pattern of them denying, any kind of misconduct on behalf of the agents, and then blaming the victims essentially, and domestic terrorism, all those kinds of labels and character assassination efforts. But I think that at the end of the day, certainly the FBI should be leading the investigation. I don't think DHS has ever done any of these, so they certainly don't have any expertise in it. As some of your previous guests mentioned, there's a conflict there. And when you have the highest level officials, the secretary of DHS and the president saying, this was a good shooting, basically, and again, blaming the protesters, I think you're off to a bad start, to say the least. So I think it's important to make sure they preserve the evidence. I was glad to see the federal judge require that. I think that's in the Renee Good case previously, but that should be applied here as well. And then, get out of the way. Let the state do the investigation and prosecution. I think Keith Ellison is the attorney general for the state there, and he demonstrated that he certainly has the ability to do that well. We saw them handle the Derek Chauvin case in very expert fashion. So let them get started on it, give them the evidence, let them go take it to a grand jury, which is where I would think it should go next, and see if they return an indictment or not.
Congressman, on that question of the level of trust, what does it say that local officials went to a court and a court said to the federal government to preserve evidence? Yeah,
it's pretty shocking. I mean, because if you destroy evidence, that's arguably obstruction of justice, and so it's shocking that a court has to tell the federal government, the Department of Justice, DHS, don't destroy any evidence now. Especially in homicide investigation. So that's the Trump administration. That's where we are right now. But I think it certainly demands oversight on behalf of Congress. But I think specific investigations here on these shootings, investigations and probably prosecutions is where I think these should go. I think those are necessary, if for no other reason to hold the individuals who did these shootings accountable, but also to send a message to other agents out there on the street that, you don't have absolute immunity. You cannot act with impunity out there on the street because nobody's above the law, including federal officials in Minnesota. So hopefully they can get moving forward on this quickly and be very aggressive in the way they handle the investigation. But the feds need to get out of the way.
Congressman, quickly before we are out of time, I asked this of a previous guest, but I've got to ask you because there are very few ways that Democrats can actually hold this administration accountable. But what do you have to say of your 7 colleagues, Democrats, who decided to pass and to continue to fund DHS by supporting the funding bill that just passed the House and is now headed to the Senate?
Well, hopefully the second shooting will change their minds on that front. And I don't know if we're going to get another chance on the vote there. But I think all the other Democrats voted against sending against the funding for DHS for this very reason.
But how many shootings should it take for lawmakers to have to change their minds?
Well, that's certainly my position. Even before the shootings, I thought they were out of control. But it goes to the Senate next week. We'll see what they do there. Hopefully, we'll have another crack at it. And Congress as a whole can send the message to DHS, withhold the funding, and start pressuring them to get their house in order. The chain of command piece, it's not just the guys out on the street. It's clear that the chain of command is broken and needs a complete overhaul as well. We've got to get these things moving. And the other big step, I think, is, I know Trump won't do this. Get those people out of there. They don't know how to handle these situations on the street. They're not trained to do this. And that's why, in part, why we're having these kinds of use of excessive force and killings on the streets.
Well, as we know, that DHS bill is headed over to the Senate, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has already said there will be no votes from Democrats on that. We will see if that is indeed the case. Congressman Glenn Ivey of Maryland, thank you very much for coming back to the weekend.